Hey guys, it's Pastor Jason. I am the youth and young adult pastor at Woodburn Baptist, and this is our weekly Wednesday devotion. So thank you for joining us. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram and IGTV. So make sure that you check us out. Follow us on all those platforms. I don't want you to miss anything that's going on. Check this out. We are going to be together next week. So we're finally getting started back up. I know that we have to be careful and we have to make sure that we follow all the guidelines, but we are going to be together outside, hopefully weather permitting. 1 week from today, on July 22nd, we're going to have our first activity. We're going to have a movie night. This is at 8 o'clock. We're going to meet here at the church under the pavilion, and we'll be doing the movie somewhere in this general area, so wherever we can find the best lighting. So make sure that you come. The student ministry, if you are just coming up into the 7th grade this fall, you are definitely invited, so we want you guys to come as well. If you just graduated, you're still come. You're still part of the student ministry. I know you got cheated out of your last few months, so make sure that you guys are here. I'm not sure what movie we're going to be watching yet. That's going to be a surprise for you guys, so it'll be fun. Either way, we're going to be together. We're going to have some prepackaged snacks and things like that, so make sure that you're here next Wednesday, July 22nd, 8 o'clock at Woodburn Baptist, and we're going to have fun together. Socially distant and careful, but we're going to have fun. And then that following Friday, July 24th, is going to be a prom. I know some of you didn't get to have your prom. Some of you don't care because you don't like prom anyway, so it was probably exciting for you. But this is for 10th through 12th grade, those that just came out of 10th through 12th grade. We're going to be having this at the DeVries house outside on their patio. I have a DJ there. We're going to have a good time. This is 6:30 to 8:30, and this is Friday, July 24th. So we need you to sign up for that. We have an online form that you can fill out. Go to bit.ly/WBC prom and fill that out. You can also go to the woodburnbaptist.org and go to the student ministry page and click on the link there. But it's free, you don't cost anything, but we just need to know how many to prepare for. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy a prom dress or a tuxedo. If you have one, wear it. We want you to dress up, but if you don't have one, just wear whatever kind of dresses or suits that you might have or whatever. We just want you guys to come and have a good time. So make sure you tell your friends and invite them, and make sure that you register online so that we know how many are coming. So we're looking forward to that, and hopefully that'll start our series of Wednesday nights kind of being back together in whatever way we can. So keep that in mind. I can't wait to see you guys. I'm excited. So tonight we're going to be talking about being a light. In Scripture, we always see the description of darkness is dark, and Jesus and positivity and all that stuff is compared to light, and so we're kind of playing off that a little bit. I don't know if you're familiar with this, probably not. There's a millipede that lives in California, and that's a bug with a lot of legs, and the thing is, it comes out at night to eat, and it glows. It's that bioluminescent aspect that it has to it, but the reason that it does that is so that it's predators know that it's there, because it also produces this cyanide toxic poison that kind of oozes out of its pores, so that the predators know that it's dangerous. Now, I know that's a weird segue into us being the light, but that's kind of how we should be. We don't need to ooze the toxic, deadly poison. But God calls us to glow. He calls us to be noticeable, not for pride and not to be, oh, look at me, but in order to show the world who God is and what He's all about. He created us to shine bright, and we're going to be looking at Philippians, and the author of Philippians is Paul, and he wrote this book during a time of horrible suffering. They were being persecuted. Their faith was illegal, and they were being cut off from their families. They were have death threats. Some of them were put to death. Their work, they were excluded from work opportunities. Some of them were wondering where their next meals were going to come from. And so in the midst of all that, Paul was writing to them how they can still be a light. And live in such chaos, but still be effective as followers and effective as those who are sharing the gospel. So we're going to be looking at Philippians chapter 2. You can go ahead and turn there. I'm going to start in verse 12. And it says, that, Dear friends, you have always followed my instructions when I was with you. And now that I'm away, it's even more important. So he's saying you're doing this and you're doing it well, but it's even more important now that I'm not with you, and now that things are kind of dangerous and difficult. And he goes on and says, work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. Some translations say work out your salvation, and this has caused a little bit of confusion for some people, because we know that your salvation is not brought on by the good works that you do, but it's a gift from God. And so this translation kind of explains it a little bit better, but it's saying to work hard so that you can show the results of your salvation. Not out of pride, but out of necessity to share who Jesus is. So Paul is saying if you're a Christian, then your life needs to reflect Christ. You need to shine and be different from the world that you're in, and be a transformed heart so that you can transform the hearts of others through God's grace and God's gospel. Going on in verse 13, it says, "For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him." You probably don't watch Battlestar Galactica. I haven't watched that either, but I saw this interview of one of the actresses on there. She was talking about someone, a guest star that had come on that was a famous person, and the thing was that they acted so intensely and so well that everybody else kind of had to up their game in order to match their performance. And that's kind of the point of what Paul is saying here. God does the work, and so we need to rise to the occasion and kind of match His amazingness in sharing the gospel, and match His light, the light that He shines out. He goes on in verse 14, "Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people." Of all the things that Paul chose to single out, he went after the arguing and complaining. We like to think it's the big things that make an impact, that really stand out to God, like the service project that we do, the mission trip that we do, that huge donation that we or our families made. Complaining and arguing aren't necessarily high on that list of things that we feel are hugely important. We can tend to minimize them or justify them, but they really do impact a lot. Our everyday actions, our everyday choice of words and choice of actions show who we are, and probably even more truly than any big grand gestures that we could choose to do. Our nation, our world is in the middle of several big, painful scenarios right now, right? And so we need to ask ourselves some questions. Are you living as a child of God, first of all? Are you shining God's light? Are you more concerned with defending your politics, your comfort, or your opinion? Is it more important to you to be heard than putting God out there? Are we closing the door to pointing people to Christ online or in school or in our neighborhoods, in our family, because we lack the humility, to resist arguing when we hear something we don't agree with or we don't like? Do you lash out at those people who don't take the same stance as you, or do you make your points known with a language of love, with a language that God would be present in? And I'm not saying be silent. I'm not, because we know that silence is sometimes more deafening than the loudest screams. But when we use our voices without complaining or without arguing, we kind of stand out, because that's unusual, especially with the way online things are right now. People just want to blast you as soon as you say something, you hear something, you want to blast your opinion, and so everybody's screaming at once. And so when someone is gentle in their approach, and showing that Christ is worth this gentleness, Christ is better than screaming, it gets people's attention. So there's power in love. There's power in subtlety. There's power in just speaking truth without being complaining or without being argumentative. He goes on in verse 16, "Hold firmly to the word of life. Then, on the day of Christ's return, I will be proud that I did not run the race in vain, and that my work was not useless." Verse 17, But I will rejoice even if I lose my life, pouring it out like a liquid offering to God, just like your faithful service is an offering to God. And I want all of you to share that joy. Yes, you should rejoice, and I will share in your joy." Many of us think that we say, maybe that we might say that we're willing to lose our life for God, right? But the thing is, He's calling us to do more than just say that we are willing to do something for Him. We are willing to be a martyr. It's easy to say that, but it seems like it's easier to say that I'd rather be a martyr for God than it is to say I will check my pride, or I will make sure that Christ's love gets heard before my opinion, or before clearing up this false information. We have to check our pride. We have to check our selfish desires and check our need to have the final word. Someday, when all of this is past and probably new things are there, and that moment when we finally get to stand with Christ, will you stand there and be able to say, that you can look back on your life and be happy with what you did and with what you said? Or, be able to say, I have been a light for you, Jesus? Or will it be a moment of discomfort? Shame maybe at the wasted opportunities, the energy that you spent complaining and arguing instead of building the kingdom. God is calling us to sacrifice, and I know that goes against what the world is telling you, because that is where we're actually going to find joy. The world wants you to think that if you want joy, you have to go get it yourself. You have to go grab it. It's all about what you need or want, and logically that makes sense. But as a believer, you have to know that when you give your life to God, when you give your desires to God and say, this is what I want, God, but I want more what you want, then you're going to begin to understand what true joy is. We get the idea of joy and happiness confused because we think as long as we're happy, we're joyful. But joy is so much deeper, because joy can be found even in the most trying times of our lives. Joy can be found in the biggest tragedies in our life. And it's not always happiness, because joy sometimes is just understanding that we're okay, or understanding that it will be okay. And so, my challenge for you guys is to be known as individuals, or to be known as a student ministry, or even as a church, that shines brightly. Wherever you happen to be, wherever you're planted, God is working on each of you, and in each of your hearts. And so my prayer for you is that we get out of the way and let God take center stage. Let God take control of whatever it is that we are saying, whatever it is that we're doing, so that His light is evident. His light shines bright. And in the process of allowing God to be the front and allowing God to be the center, that's how amazing God is, that He's going to in turn allow you to just kind of flourish. He's going to allow you to find joy in places that you never thought possible. He's going to allow you to find happiness in areas and in activities that you never thought that you would find happiness. He's going to provide you with more than what you could ever imagine on your own. And I know I've said that a lot in my teaching, but it's just truth. We can only reach the amount of joy that we are capable of imagining on our own. But if you allow God to set, just give all that to Him and let Him take that, then He is going to show you joy that you never even thought of, joy that you never thought you would ever achieve. And so that's the God that we serve. And that's the God that we want other people to explore and to be introduced to, because we want them to experience that joy too, right? It's more important than getting your point across. It's more important than maybe trying to be the final word. It's more important because it's their lives at stake. So that's my challenge for you guys, is to be a light for God in this crazy, dark, chaotic world that we're living in right now. Not in an argumentative way, not in a in your face screaming way, but in a loving, subtle, gentle way. Just love on the people around you. Listen. People just sometimes feel like they need to be heard, and once they're heard, they might be more receptive to hear what you had to say about God. So be that light in this crazy dark world. I love you guys. I miss you. Again, I cannot wait to see you. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me or text me. I'd love to just chat if that's what you need. So see you guys soon. Next Wednesday, July 22nd is our first thing. So make sure that you are here. I want you to be here. So I'll see you then.